Regrettably, I can't assert that I lingered until he departed. Instead, it was a truth that my husband was alive, if only barely, when I found myself in another man's embrace. That fateful night, I abandoned Tony's side, citing the need for a shower and fresh attire, and sought solace at Jeremy's residence. Upon my return, my eyes were bloodshot, my hands quivered, and falsehoods lingered on my lips. Tony inquired about my whereabouts. I replied I had visited the pharmacy. He offered a faint smile, but his gaze betrayed him. He knew I was hiding something, and I despised myself for it. He was withering away, and yet I betrayed him. But what is rarely discussed is that sorrow doesn't always patiently await death. Sometimes it arrives prematurely. It constricts your throat, squeezes relentlessly until you cease to be yourself, until you commit the unthinkable. And so I did. However, the aftermath was even more agonizing. Prior to delving further into that tumultuous period, I simply wish to express my gratitude to all of you who have subscribed to this channel. You are the driving force behind tales such as this being shared. To all the wonderful new and returning viewers, thank you for gracing my presence. I eagerly invite you to click that subscribe button promptly. It carries immense significance to me and serves as the driving force behind this channel. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments section below, as I eagerly await your feedback on this tale. Let us now journey back to the origin of this story. My name is Ruth, residing in Montgomery, Alabama. At present, I am 50 years old. For the past 2 years, I have watched my beloved husband Tony endure a slow and painful battle against ALS. One of those cruel diseases that not only takes life but strips it away inch by inch, month by month. First, it took his strength, then his balance, and finally his voice. Watching this man I adore disappear piece by piece while he was still before me has been heartbreaking. Despite my deep love for Tony, the experience has taught me that love alone may not always be sufficient to mend a shattered heart. For several months, hospitals and clinics were my home. I ceased working and living as I once did. I was no longer Ruth. Instead, I filled the roles of caregiver, nurse, house manager, absorber of grief. I wept in the shower, while folding laundry, whenever I glanced at old photographs. I cried before death even arrived, and I was enraged. So furious. Then came Jeremy. Jeremy was Tony's college friend, living merely 20 minutes away and visiting every few weeks. He was kind, quiet-spoken, with a gaze that made me feel like a woman again. Someone still alive beyond the labels of wife and caretaker. One night, Tony experienced one of his episodes. He struggled to breathe due to choking on his saliva, forcing me to call a nurse at 2 a.m. I was trembling. Once they stabilized him, I left for some fresh air. I called Jeremy, sobbing. He told me to come over. I convinced myself it was just to talk, that I needed to catch my breath, that I would return before Tony even noticed. 2 hours post, I departed the house, transformed. The guilt struck me upon entering my vehicle. Tears welled up before I even started the engine. Upon my return home, Tony was awake. His head turned sluggishly, and he inquired in a voice barely louder than a whisper, "Where did you go?" "Pharmacy," I replied. He stared for a beat too long. Then he smiled, but it was not a genuine smile, rather a farewell. The days following that night were akin to walking on shards of glass with bare feet. Tony spoke sparingly, and when he did, each word seemed heavy with an ominous shadow. He would gaze at me occasionally with a gentle, distant expression, as if he was observing me from afar, even though my physical self was beside his. I tried to convince myself that he was unaware. Perhaps it was the disease clouding my interpretation of his expressions. However, deep down I sensed something had altered. And Jeremy, he altered too. He ceased responding to my texts, ignored my calls. The same individual who previously affirmed my worthiness of solace and cradled me as if I were shattering, now evaded me as though I was a discoloration he couldn't remove. I began to unravel. One night, I discovered myself seated on the kitchen floor, clutching a bottle of Tony's medication. Not for any malicious purpose, but because I was at a loss about what else to cling to. My hands craved something to hold on to, anything. I was disintegrating in silence within the confines of our home, while attempting to maintain the fabric of Tony's life. That week, Tony's breathing deteriorated. He struggled with swallowing and slept excessively. Hospice was summoned. The nurse informed me we were nearing the end. I remained by his side day and night. I smoothed his hair, held his hand, read him scripture even when I doubted he could hear me. One evening, as the sky outside glowed gold and pink, Tony slowly turned towards me and murmured words I would never forget. "Did you make my life meaningful?" I stood still. I peered into his face and detected not anger, but sorrow instead. I stammered, "Tony," as I reached for his hand. His eyes closed. "All I ever wanted was for you to remain alive," he whispered faintly, before drifting off to sleep. That sentence was the last full one he spoke to me. He passed away peacefully, they said 3 days later. Yet peace eluded me. As I organized his possessions, coordinated funeral arrangements, and accepted sympathies of family and neighbors oblivious to my turmoil within, I stumbled upon a sealed envelope with my name on it, hidden in the top drawer of his dresser. His handwriting adorned it. Sitting on our bed, I tremblingly opened it. Inside lay 2 sheets of paper and a photo. The image depicted Tony and Jeremy, laughter etched across their faces at some beach, embracing like brothers. Unfolding the letter, my heart raced as I read what was written. "If you are reading this, it signifies that I am no longer here." From the initial line of your letter, my breath momentarily stopped within me, as Tony became privy to all. Not merely about that fateful night, but the burden I bore silently. The loneliness, the unspoken torment, the gradual suffocation. Neither of us had an escape. You, Ruth, the depths of your sorrow were evident in your eyes well before you left this home. You mourned me while my life still pulsed. That's the toll this illness takes. It transforms those we cherish into strangers, even before death claims our bodies. Never did I harbor anger towards you, not for a single moment. It was the predicament we found ourselves in that I despised, the torment I subjected you to. And yes, it was Jeremy. The letter against my heart, I wept. He, the man I betrayed, had already forgiven me before I could even ask. But what followed shattered me once more. Jeremy and I were as close as brothers, but he lacked the fortitude to confront adversity. In my absence, I knew he would vanish, leaving you with only remorse. And that, I loathed, knowing it would be your fate. Here is my final gift to you. Learn to forgive yourself. You are a human enduring an unbearable agony, not defined by that moment. It needn't become your eternal sentence. At the very depth he wrote, "You are the greatest love of my life." I hope one day you can say the same about yourself. The following morning, I stood before his casket, burdened by the letter in my bag and an inner silence that echoed louder than any hymn. People thought I was strong, yet they didn't see the shards hidden under my skin. Jeremy did not attend the funeral, nor did he call or write. I didn't seek him out. Closure from him wasn't what I needed. Tony had given me more: understanding, grace, a forgiveness that reshapes the soul. But shame persisted, quiet, heavy, unrelenting. In the ensuing months, I returned to work part-time at the library, began therapy, and learned how to inhale without weeping. I shifted my perspective from viewing myself as a villain to recognizing a woman overwhelmed by love and sorrow. Am I remorseful? Indeed. If granted another opportunity, I would undoubtedly act differently. However, life does not afford us the luxury of rewinds. It only offers lessons. My lesson is this: grief isn't confined to black and white boundaries. It intrudes where it shouldn't and drives actions that seem incomprehensible. But know this: it doesn't define your unworthiness. It indicates your pain. If there's someone out there who has acted mysteriously during a turbulent period, remember you are not isolated. I continue to visit Tony's grave weekly, spending time beside his headstone, tracing his name gently with my fingers, and repeating the same words over and over again. I am sorry. I am sorry. I am sorry. And amidst the silence, I sense him responding similarly. Thank you for accompanying me through this narrative. I sincerely hope it struck a chord within you. Please share your thoughts in the comments. I read each one carefully. Don't forget to favorite, repost, and above all, subscribe to the channel. Your backing is crucial. Until we meet again, remain kind-hearted.